Hello guys, this video will be a practical step-by-step demo of how to perform adding to the cart in Laravel and Livewire with one package of ShoppingCart. It will be a slow, almost live coding video, especially the Livewire part, targeted mostly at those of you who haven't tried Livewire at all or minimally. I will show the installing of Livewire, creating components and step-by-step all of that. And also I will demonstrate a package of Laravel ShoppingCart, this one. So grab a cup of coffee or something and let's go live coding. So our starting point is this table where nothing works yet. This link or that calculation doesn't work yet. It's just the list of products from the database. I've seeded 4 products, and in the index blade there is a table of products with link that doesn't lead anywhere and with type number input that doesn't really work. And this extends layouts app where there is a cart with 0 without any calculations. So this is our starting point. So first we make this button work, then we will do this calculation, so that would work. Then we will check if this is inside of the cart, and then we will show that this product is in cart. And then we will make it more dynamic with Livewire to avoid full page refresh, so this would refresh automatically on click. To save the cart, we will use a package called Laravel ShoppingCart. I've researched a few packages about Laravel ShoppingCarts and found a few packages that are forked from the same old package that is abandoned now and not updated. So there were 2 options of when it was forked, and they are pretty similar, so I've chosen randomly this one, and it will help us save the cart into a session so we don't have the database of cart. Because imagine in real life scenario, you add something to cart, you don't have a user yet on that eShop, you don't have any orders or anything. It's just happening in your session of the browser or, well, Laravel session. And then when you go to checkout, then you proceed with user order and stuff like that. So we don't need cart in the database, but we do need to store it somewhere. So this package will help us with that. So step by step. Let's transform this input and link into a form. So each TD will contain a form with action to, let's call it route cart store, for example, and we will create a controller in a minute. Then we need CSRF protection, and then we have those 2 fields. So field of name, for example, quantity, and then instead of that link will be a button type submit. Button type submit with the same Tailwind classes, button. And now let's create that cart store. To do that, we will create a controller. So PHP artisan make controller cart controller. And then we'll add that to our routes web. Duplicate the line, route post to cart controller, store method, and we will add a name here, name cart.store on a new line, like this. Then inside of that cart controller, let's build that store method with request as a parameter. And for now without any body, like this. And let's refresh our page, whether it works the same or looks the same actually. It looks almost the same, the button got a bit bigger, but that's no big deal. So now if we change that to 2 and we click add to cart, we should get an empty page. And that didn't happen because we forgot one thing. So this means if your parameters are in the get and you want to do a post request, it means that you forgot method post. Method post, like this. Now if we refresh and we go add to cart here, as expected we see an empty page but no error. Empty page means that we landed here. Now we need to install that package and actually save things to cart here. With that Laravel ShoppingCart package, we will be able to do something like this. So add the product to the cart with its price and any other parameters that we want. But to install that, installation is pretty easy. Just compose require and then publishing the config. But probably we won't change anything in the config. We will see, but for now let's just publish it. And then we can just do cart add, and that cart comes from facades from what I remember, so this one. And now what will be our request? We need to pass the product ID probably. So let's add a hidden field, input type hidden, name product ID, value product ID from the table. So we have two parameters passed, product ID and quantity. Now, what are the parameters to cart add? If we take a look at the documentation, you specify ID, name, quantity, price, and weight. We don't really need the weight, so ID will be product ID. But first, let's try to find the product. So product equals product, find or fail. If it fails, it will throw 404 page with request input product ID. Something like this. And then we add product ID and product price here. Product ID, product name, quantity comes from the request, request input quantity. And at this point we probably need to have it on a separate line, all the parameters, because it will be a long line. So request input quantity. And then we need to have product price, but price is in cents in the database. For many reasons, you shouldn't store the price and the money in floats. You should do that in integers in cents. But here we need to divide that by 100 to make it in dollar values. And I guess that's it. Then we need to redirect back, return, redirect to the route name of home. And home, let's assign the home name to products, or actually name products index, something like this. So we will return to products index. Let's try it out. So we refresh the page, we go to here, add to cart, and we are redirected back. Redirected without any success message. Let's add a success message. So with message successfully added or something, added. And then here in the index blade, let's put somewhere on top if session message, and if, then we just show the message session message. Let's put it in some kind of div and let's see how it looks. Refresh now, add to cart, and we do have successfully added. Cool. You can add styling here with Tailwind, but I just did it for the purpose of showing something. Now our cart is in the session and we need to show the number here, how many items are in the cart. So to do that, the package provides cart content. And cart content returns a collection, Laravel collection, where each element is cart item object. And we will get to that in a minute, to the item section. For now, we just need the count of that. So in the app blade, instead of 0, we do cart with all the facade, content, count. I think that would work. And we refresh the page and we have 1 here. If we add something else, we have 2 here. But the problem here is that the page is refreshed automatically. You don't maybe see that visually because the page is really small and it refreshes really quickly. But if you have a big eShop with a lot of items and full design, it would totally feel. So in a few minutes we will get rid of that refresh. But for now, there's one more thing we need to take care of. So which product is in the cart already? And here we will get to the actual contents of the cart instead of just number. To check if the product is in the cart, we need to pass all the content of the cart to that view, to the blade view. So what we need to do here in the controller, we have a cart variable with cart, again facade, content. So all the content is passed to the blade here. And then in the blade, that cart is actually a collection. Let's dd that cart, so I will show you the contents of that. Let's refresh the page. And I will zoom it in a bit. So items, it's a Laravel collection, not Eloquent collection, but it has cart item objects. And each item has its own row ID, which we don't really care about at the moment. We have ID of the product, quantity, price, name, and possible options, which we don't have at the moment. There are more parameters that you could be filling, but generally we have what we need here. Let's zoom it out. So all we need to do is to use the collection operations, which is if statement, if cart where ID equals product ID that we passed, product ID, if it exists, or like if it's count, else. So if it is in the cart, we just show in cart text, else we show that form. Let's reformat that with PHP Storm automatically. And now if we refresh the page, we see that this is in cart. And if we add, for example, here, add to cart, this becomes in cart as well with successfully added, again with just page refreshed. But generally adding to cart works. To have a full cart experience, you probably should add remove to cart or changing the quantity, but I will leave it for you as a homework. In this video, we are tackling adding to the cart as a demo of this package, but that package contains all the method of cart update, cart remove, destroy, and stuff like that, so you can play around with those. What we will do in this video is, as I said, avoid page refresh, and for that we will use Laravel Livewire. For now, it's not installed in the project, and I will show it step by step, even for those of you who haven't seen or tried Livewire. It will help us to catch an event of this being changed in that part. So we'll have two Livewire components. One component will be for the product list, and here will be the component of cart counter, which will catch the event and update that number without page refresh, and without any JavaScript or jQuery or Vue.js or anything, just Laravel Livewire. To enable Laravel Livewire in our project, all we need to do is composer require Livewire. So we install that, and then we need to add two things in our main blade file or wherever you have your HTML. At the top where you have styles, you need to add @Livewire styles like this, and at the bottom where you have usually JavaScripts, you have Livewire scripts. That will enable Livewire globally in the project. Now we need to transform that table into Livewire component and this into Livewire component. To do that, we generate two components with terminal PHP artisan make Livewire. And one will be called cart counter. No, I don't want to start a repo. And another one will be make Livewire products table. Let's call it this way. And as you can see, each of that command generates two files, Livewire component and the blade. You can call this a controller, kind of a controller in Laravel, and this is just a simple blade actually, which would just get the variables from here. Now that cart counter replaces this app blade part with @Livewire. You just load that component, which is cart counter, which is the name of the blade file, which is automatically converted from camel case to the dash here, so cart counter. And in that cart counter, let's open that cart counter. All we need to do is copy this one into here. Each Livewire component has to have its own div or its own main component, similar to Vue.js. So maybe actually let's copy all of that part. So with the div like this, and then we load Livewire like this, something like that. And we don't need to do anything in the cart counter Livewire component, although we could. To avoid that in Blade, it's maybe not really fancy to avoid MVC principles and have some calculations in Blade. So to be strictly correct, we should have cart count calculated as here cart count equals copy cart content count from here, cart with the facade like this, and then we pass that similar to controller and blade. Nothing really changes here, cart count, and in the blade we just cart count, we just show cart count, that's it. And in fact, nothing really changes, nothing more changes. We just can refresh the page and it should still work. Refresh, and we still have number 3 here. So by transforming that part into a Livewire component, We didn't change the behavior, we just moved the logic into blade of Livewire. Why we did that? Let's take a look at another component, and here we will have the button with Livewire event, and then it will make sense how to refresh this one. So we open our another component of products table blade, products table blade. For now it's empty, and let's copy the index blade contents to that Livewire blade. As I said, we need to have one component, one div, one HTML tag, and in this case it will be a table. So we cut and paste the table here. For now our Livewire component doesn't have products variable and doesn't know anything about it, so let's change that. So we move the logic from our product controller to Livewire. So Livewire products table will have those two variables. Okay. And we're passing it products cart, or products, sorry, like this. Then in the controller, all we need to do is just load the index, and we don't need those, and we don't need those. And then inside of that products index, in the index blade, instead of having the table, we don't need that session. All we need to do is load Livewire component, Livewire products table, like this. And now if we refresh our page, nothing should change. It should still work. Refresh, and as I said, nothing really changed visually, it still works. So we transformed our simple Laravel controller and blade into Livewire stuff without changing any behavior. So at this point, add Livewire is just kind of include. And now let's do the magic. In our products table, we will transform this form to prevent the submit with an event called wire submit.prevent equals, and equals the name of the method that we will create in Livewire controller, in Livewire component, which is add to cart with a parameter of product ID. So that's first thing. And then in Livewire component, in the products table part, we will create a method that will be automatically called add to cart, and we'll have product ID as a parameter. Now, how to get that product ID with quantity? We don't need that product ID hidden anymore, and we need to change this quantity to product ID quantity, or in fact, we don't need the name at all. Instead, we need a thing called wire model. We need to assign this input to a Livewire property, Livewire variable of some kind. And we will create a variable called public quantity, for example, quantity, and let it be an array, public array of quantity, which equals by default empty array. And in here, we will wire model to quantity dot product ID by default, and it will be an element of array. And now in our add to cart, we will call the same thing of cart add as we do in cart controller, and we don't need that cart controller anymore. Actually, we find the product, and we don't need that request. We'll have product ID like this. And instead of quantity, we will have this quantity of product ID. And we just delete that cart controller. Actually, let's leave it for now, but it won't be, like, to prove that it will not be used, let's comment out all the store and let's try it out. We refresh. And there's one more thing we need to change. We need to assign the values to all of our quantities. So that value doesn't work anymore. In the product table, that value 1 is irrelevant because we attach that value to the quantities. And to do that, in the products table component, we have another method, public function mount. Mount is kind of like a constructor of Livewire component. And in mount, actually, we do products, and products will be this products. So public products would be something like this, and then we assign this products to product all, and then we don't need to pass them here. In the Livewire blade files, all those variables that are in the properties of Livewire component, they are automatically accessible in the blade file, so you don't need to put that in the render. Render, by the way, is the method to view that blade file. So we mount the products, and then we need to mount the quantities. So for each of this products as product, we do this quantity of product ID equals 1 by default. And now see what happens. If we refresh the page, this should turn into 1. Refresh, and we have 1 here because we've set that value. So this is how Livewire works. You assign any variable in the Livewire component in the controller, and then it is automatically rendered with the value in the blade. And now if we add that to cart, and see what happened. I didn't refresh the page. I didn't make any full refresh, but that's automatically in cart. So how that works, after every custom method of Livewire component, for example this one, it's calling again a function called render. It's re-rendering all that table, excluding this one. We will get to that in a minute. So by re-rendering the table, it gets the new content again, and just shows the updated cart. So you just saw the purpose and the effect of Laravel Livewire to have dynamic elements on specific components without refreshing full page and without using JavaScript. That's probably the main thing about Livewire. It's mostly for those developers who are backenders at heart and they don't want to learn or they don't want to dig deeper into any of front-end frameworks like Vue.js, React or anything and stay with Laravel. So Livewire is perfect for that. And finally, we get to this part. We need to update this number automatically. And how to get cart counter to catch the event. So here, cart counter. How cart counter can be refreshed. So to do that, all we need to do is define a protected variable of listeners. And on the event name of, for example, cart updated, we need to call some method of inside of cart counter, and all we need to do is call render, but we could do whatever method inside that we need. And in any other component where the cart was actually updated, we need to emit that event. So in our case, in products table, after updating the cart, all we need to do is this emit and event name, so that event name should be the same as in any other component which listens for that event to happen. So now I've destroyed the session and the cart is empty. And now let's add something to cart and see what happens. We clicked add to cart, in cart here, and as you can see, cart 1 here, again without any page refresh. So this is a proof that the event fired here was listened to and caught here in this component. So this is how you can manage multiple Livewire components on your page. For example, click something here and on the sidebar or top bar or something, refresh some data. And that's it for this small but slow demo of demoing the cart package, then how Livewire works, and a few small details in between. If you want more practice with Livewire, I have my own set of components of 31 components on livewirekit.com. One of the component is actually adding to cart, but this is a simplified version. And here you get Tailwind and Bootstrap version for each of those components, so you can browse those. Or if you want to get familiar with Livewire and you haven't really studied anything on Livewire, I have a course, or in fact a few courses. If you go to laraveldaily.teachable.com, there's practical Laravel Livewire from scratch. Also a practical project on Jetstream with Livewire, and also a real project of creating so-called checklister with Livewire. So here on the screenshot you can see that there's a sidebar which will be refreshed on the data, on change of the data in the main part, and the sidebar here as well. So here are 3 courses. You can get them one by one, starting with Livewire from scratch, or you can subscribe to the yearly membership, which is $99 per year, where you can get all of the courses at once by paying for the membership. It's 19 courses at the moment, plus everything I will release further for a year, so that's quite a good deal. And by purchasing that, you also support me as a creator on this YouTube, so I can continue creating the free videos on YouTube for you guys. And see you guys in those other videos.